CrossPolitic, we're bringing back beer and songs. Kind of disappeared.
Shame on us.
And then we had enough rebukes recently to bring back beer and songs.
Daybreak Bale Breaker.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm interested. I'm curious like a cat.
It's like Pineapple Punch. I like it.
You gonna open that up before the Psalms part?
He forgot the rules.
He forgot the rules. What Psalms yet?
What? I thought this whole show was beer and Psalms.
Well, we're gonna cover a little bit of libertarian news.
All right, look here. This is part of my libertarianism right here.
It shows.
That's right.
Yeah. Wait till you see the clip later.
This is theonomic libertarianism for the record. But
okay. Nice. I think you can do that.
The mission of Armored Republic is to honor Christ by equipping free men with tools of liberty necessary to preserve God-given rights. In the Armored Republic, there's no king but Christ. We are free craftsmen. Body armor is a tool of liberty. We create tools of liberty. Free men must remain ever vigilant against tyranny wherever it appears. God has given us the tools of liberty needed to defend the rights he's bestowed upon us. An Armored Republic is honored to offer you those tools. So visit them today at ar500armor.com. That's AR, the number 500-500-armor.com. Are you a subscriber to our CrossPolitic email list? If you're not, you really should be. Being subscribed to our email list means you won't miss any updates about CrossPolitic or the Fight Laugh Feast network. You'll hear about what's on the schedule for the week, live events, conference updates, rowdy Christian merch, updates from other shows within the Fight Laugh Feast network, and you'll hear from sponsors on the show as they seek to take dominion for God's kingdom in the business world. To subscribe, simply enter your email address at the bottom of the page at fightlaughfeast.com. Again, go to fightlaughfeast.com, enter your email, and don't forget to sign up for Prodigal America, our conference, Fight Laugh Feast conference this year. Don't forget to sign up for that too.
What are you scrolling? You're just scrolling.
Yeah, well, because I'm just
you researching.
So Trump's was at the Libertarian convention in Washington, D.C. This last week. They actually invited him to speak.
Wow.
They invited Trump to speak at the convention.
Well, because there's the Mises Caucus is the kind of paleo-libertarian side of the Libertarian Party.
Okay.
So you kind of have your kind of leftist libertarians and your conservative libertarians. The leftist libertarians are, socially commie.
Yeah.
LGBT stuff, the president who ended up getting elected, or the libertarian candidate who ended up getting nominated to be the president of the candidate for the president of the Libertarian Party. He's a pro-vax guy, pro-mask guy, all this weird stuff.
This is the guy that they nominated to be the president of the United States.
To be their candidate to go. Yes,
that's what I mean.
So if they were to win, you'd get a certain, just play the clip of what kind of president we would get if this guy actually won.
Okay.
Drag queens are not what you call family-friendly kind of entertainment.
Okay, but a man in a dress is what drag is, right? Let's just be real. A man in a dress or a woman in a suit is what drag is. Mm-hmm. That is not inherently sexual. There is inherently sexual drag. And you're not going to convince me. I mean, I'm not going to defend otherwise. There absolutely is.
That's perversion. This is what that is.
Didn't he go on to say
what a weird argument?
He said, didn't he go on to say, like, the guy asked him, like, if would you drop your kid off at a drag queen story? And it's like, oh yeah, absolutely.
He doesn't think there's anything wrong with drag queen story hour whatsoever.
Yeah, a man in a dress is not inherently sexual.
That's perversion.
So that's the guy
that the libertarians had their way.
The libertarians picked to be president of the United States.
Classic social commie.
Goodness.
So the Mises Caucus is actually, I think I think we sympathize with a lot of the people who are part of the Mises Caucus. So,
more conservative.
The advisory board is made up of Ron Paul, Tom Woods, comedian Dave Smith, who was heavily involved in the Libertarian Convention. He's the one that got Trump there.
Okay.
You have Maj Touré.
Maj.
Okay. All right.
Maj is on the board, the advisor for
he's the advisor. Yeah. Larry Sharp, who we've had on the show before.
Yeah.
Yep, that's right. So that's the Mises side. Well, they invited Trump to speak, and of course, there's massive division at the convention. They had, a bunch of people who were against Trump, and then they had probably Trump supporters that either snuck in or were part of the Libertarian Party who were actually genuine Trump supporters, part of the Libertarian Party. So there's a lot of booze going on and all that stuff. Well, at one point during Trump's talk, he says this.
Only do that if you want to win. If you want to lose, don't do that. Keep getting your 3% every 4 years.
He said, elect me if you want to win.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you want to win, elect me. And if you don't want to win,
keep doing your 3%.
Because he was seeking their nomination. Yeah. That's part. JFK also spoke via Skype. He Skyped in.
Because it wasn't worth him to show up.
JFK? JFK's been dead for a while.
I think, RFK. Yeah. RFK.
The other FK. The other FK.
Me and Alex are on the same page.
I'm with you. I speak Gabe sometimes. The other FK.
RFK. I think actually RFK got more votes than Trump did. But it was Trump I think got 6, and it was righted because Trump.
All right, that's it. Dishonor on your whole family. Make a note of this. Dishonor on you. Dishonor on your cow.
That's funny. Trump he could not be part of the Libertarian Party because he was a Republican.
He's a Republican.
Yeah, so he couldn't file.
Yeah.
So he only got 6 write-in votes, which meant nothing. RFK, he's an independent, so he could have actually filed. Yep. He got, I think, something like 16 votes. So anyways, they went through like 6 rounds of voting, and then Chase is the one who, Oliver Chase is the one who made the nomination.
And there was probably like 35 people there.
No, there was thousands. There was thousands.
Pastor.
It was in DC. There was a good showing.
That's just a little joke.
That's funny because actually that's kind of what I want to talk about. So you got the Libertarian Party here. That a lot of people, the take on this on social media and online has been that the Libertarian Party gets mocked so bad by Trump, and I think he does. He comes in there, and boy, they were booing.
But he also catered to them too.
Sure,
he catered to that base.
Yeah, I think so. He promised them that he would
the Silk Road
put a
guy.
Libertarian. Yeah, Silk Road. He'd pardon him. He'd put a Libertarian in his cabinet. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
So he offered them some things that was an extension of, hey, let's work together.
Yeah.
And everybody's kind of been mocking him, saying, wow, he really called him out, the 3% thing. But I kind of have a different appeal on this. I've been arguing that we need to get back to the things that we care about as Christians, as conservative Christians. We need to really start building on our platform, the Bible. And everybody's like, well, yeah, that's not going to really get you anywhere. You're really not going to get any attention. But I think the Libertarians got to take this one as a win. I think
meaning
because Trump, a president of the United States, went to the convention.
He gave them a microphone.
He showed up.
Yeah.
The other FK didn't.
He dignified them with his presence.
Why does Trump come? Okay, so granted, it's a little WWF or WWE for everybody else. Yeah. I'm so old.
I speak that language. I know that one.
But, I can't remember the last time that the Libertarian Party actually had somebody who was a sitting president.
Or was a sitting president.
Who was a sitting president. Come. And then ask them for their vote in person and actually grant their person on stage. Yeah. And I think
that's true.
That they made the play that they're viable in one sense or another, that Trump actually has to come and show up. And I'm like, wait a second. Why would you do that? Why would you come to these guys who everybody considers kind of like 3%? Yeah, they're 3% and you're here.
35 people.
Yeah. Okay? Yeah. And yet you're here.
That's right. Yeah.
So either you're hurting for that 3% and it really doesn't matter right now, or you don't know how things are going to go, or you're just using it to get enough attention to make people look over here to look at you. It doesn't matter. If they have 35 people, it doesn't matter because guess what? They still won. You got everybody looking at them and engaging them. And
you go through the news coverage today. CNN's talking about it, ABC, New York Times. It's all over.
And so I get that
to your point.
Everybody's laughing in one sense, like, yeah, keep doing your 3%. It's like, but you want that 3%.
Yeah.
Like you want them to, you want whatever they're bringing to the table, you want all of that.
Yeah.
And they have been, unfortunately, I don't mean this completely, but whatever their moral standard is, whatever their convictions are, which doesn't seem like very much depending on, based on who they selected, whatever it is, it's enough to make them say, okay, let's stick to our morals here. Let's stick to our values here. Let's try and be different than everybody else and work hard enough that eventually somebody's going to say, okay, we got to take these guys seriously. It looks like it's happening. It looks like it's really Ron Paul, this is a great, Ron Paul has been working in this arena for a long time.
True.
And with the breaking of the Republican Party and how people are feeling about that.
It'll be interesting to watch in the fall. Do Libertarians pick up any more votes? Do they hit 4% or do they hit 5%?
What it looked like, actually what happened it was a bunch of people from the Mises Caucus endorsed Trump.
Yeah.
As a result of the Oliver Chase that they elect. So I think he'll actually get less votes than the previous.
But Knox, but you're saying he's lending credibility to a third party.
Whatever they are.
Is that what you're saying?
Not just that. Whatever they are, they got his attention.
Yeah.
Whatever they've done, like whoever, it's not even, he came. Why show up?
Because he wants their votes.
So then they matter in a very serious way as competitors.
I don't know.
But is it just, do they matter because they provide votes, or are you trying to say that the third party has achieved something?
I think both, because you don't get eyeballs are so important. You don't get those kind of eyeballs unless you matter in some way, right? And so I think he's gotten their attention.
Sure.
My point ultimately is to make this one. They have a horrible moral, ethical code that I think really rings with American society in the same, in the same way, like that I think Christians can have. I think American Christianity, American Christians can resonate a lot better with with our current climate. There's enough there to still pull from that. If we were actually to try and gather our resources and speak clearly about our policy and have one, I think the Libertarian Party has proven that you can possibly have some pull politically. And if not on a national level, which I think you can, for sure on a local level. And so I don't think they should be laughed at and just discarded as if like, you're a little 3%.
Yeah.
He's there.
I think the movement is more important than how many people are there.
Sure.
Right. And so I think Trump is he's right now seizing a moment that's, I think, been huge for him. And he's getting all these, whether co-belligerents or, groups, the Bronx, I mean, like he's got this optic that's killing it right now.
Yeah.
Of all these people getting in line and supporting him and following him. So I think that's why he was there, is because I care more about the name recognition and the movement than the individuals.
Look at the Bronx though. I think the Bronx are doing the same thing. Like that community there is doing the same thing in one way or another. Like we're not doing this. This is this group. We're sectioning off this group. This is what we want. This is what we believe. Who's going to come to us now?
Yeah.
Right? Who's going to come to us and say, you know what? We see you out here. We see this is your position. Here's what we're willing to do for you. Okay, because if you ain't playing our game, I don't think Christians are thinking like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that we're thinking about like, and I've talked before with David Reese, which is like, let's covenant together. Let's build our businesses together. Let's do business with each other, and then leave the people, stop giving ourselves to people who aren't really buying into the way that we think about the world, and say, all right, you come to us.
Yeah.
Well, it seems like we're at a place where that's happening now.
Yeah.
Where that really can actually have an impact.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how did they get them there?
So, Toby, I'm going to take over reading this ad so you can get ready for the psalm, because we're getting into beer and psalms here. And do we have the psalm music lined up for us to play?
Yeah.
Al? Okay. All right. So I'm going to Alps Precious Metals, Genesis chapter 2, verses 10 through 12. God tells of the gold in the land of Havilah, and that the gold of the land is good. Ever since the dawn of our father's world, gold has been universally recognized as true money, and therefore the most reliable store of savings. CrossPolitic's corporate partner, Alps Precious Metals. Call them up, do business with them. Occasionally, we also do a webinar with James on gold and everything. It's been fantastic. I've learned a lot from those webinars too. Enables their clients to protect their own God-given, hard-earned wealth from serious financial problems that are upon us. Alps provides the CrossPolitic family with the best strategies and solutions for investing in physical precious metals. As a result, you can enjoy peace of mind that can be had with few other investments. So, call James. Call our boy James Hunter of Alps Precious Metals, 251-377-2197, or visit his website at Alps PMG. That's Precious Metals G. What is he? Group. Yep. Alps Precious Metals, AlpsPMG.com.
Nice. There we go.
Get you some gold and silver.
Toby, this is when you're supposed to do it.
That's right.
The noise.
No, I disagree. We need to look back at the archives, Neil, and see when do we actually open the beers.
I think I've generally done it at the beginning of the
I
show.
think you opened the beers at the beginning of the show.
I've chastised them every time for it. No, I've chastised them every time for it.
So, Psalm of the day, Psalm 1. I don't think I've done Psalm 1 yet. I looked back. I'm like, how had I not done Psalm 1?
That's funny.
Yet?
Yeah.
We should use Sharon's version.
Yeah.
I forgot we did a version of this.
Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water, that bringeth forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. The ungodly are not so, but are like the chaff which the wind driveth away. Therefore the ungodly shall not stand in the judgment, nor sinners in the congregation of the righteous. For the Lord knoweth the way of the righteous, but the way of the ungodly shall perish. Psalm 1 is like sort of a theme psalm for the whole Psalter. And I think in some ways you could even think of it as sort of a theme psalm of the whole Bible. It establishes just key categories for Christians to keep in mind at all times.
That's right.
Those categories are the righteous versus the ungodly, and blessing versus judgment. Like that's basically some of the most fundamental categories we have to fix in our mind. There are righteous, the ungodly, there's blessing versus judgment. The righteous man, though, notice, is a blessed man. So those are used interchangeably in this psalm. It's the blessed man who then is the righteous man. And the ungodly, of course, are judged for their sins. There are two ways of life in this psalm. There are two paths. There are two communities. There are even two kinds of wisdom. Notice that the ungodly have counsels that the blessed men stay out of. They don't listen to those counsels. The ungodly have their own cultures. They have their own houses that they sit in. So they have community. But their counsels are full of sin and scorn. They are sinners and they are scorners. They cannot stand the scrutiny of God's judgment. And so their plans disintegrate and disappear. They blow in the wind. The righteous avoid the ungodly, and they understand the progression of fellowship with the ungodly. And so they're on their guard. Notice that the psalm opens with, the man is blessed that does not walk in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stand in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scornful. There's a progression there. Walking, standing, sitting. You're getting closer. It starts with maybe just hearing foolish counsel. It then proceeds to actually standing with sinners, maybe also sinning with those sinners. And then it ends in blatant scorn and bitterness. Remember that you become like your friends. You become like the people you walk with, you stand with, you sit with. And think about your friends as including just whatever you spend your time doing. So like you're in entertainment, for example, like the music you listen to, what's in your ears constantly, what's on the radio.
Counselors.
Those are your counselors.
Yeah,
those are your friends that you spend time with. That playlist that you go back to again and again. The shows you watch, the podcasts you consume, the comedians that make you laugh. Those are your friends.
Right.
The counsel of the ungodly, on the surface, it's counsel. It's called counsel. So it can sound like wisdom.
And they have your ear.
Yeah. But it can seem enlightened. It can seem, fresh.
Right.
It can seem sexy. It can seem edgy. They know what time it is, whatever. But you can quickly recognize it because it is connected to those other things. It stands with sinners and it sits with scorners. And so the thing you ought to be watching out for when you're listening to someone, so that's the counsel part, you want to be watching out for those people cutting corners on holiness. Do they make room for standing with sinners? Or do they care about holiness, purity, morality? Yeah. The people, you might make excuses. Yeah, he sometimes loses his temper on social media. He sometimes yells at his kids, but he really understands culture well. Whoa.
Yeah.
That should make you pause and say, wait a second. Why am I listening to his counsel if he makes room for standing with sinners? Yeah, sometimes she dresses really immodestly, but she's really smart on current events. No, those things don't go together.
Yeah.
That's not wise counsel if you're standing with sinners. And the dark underbelly of all ungodliness is scornful envy. Right?
Yeah.
That's where you end up with. You end up sitting in the house of scorners or mockers or scoffers. The scoffer or the mocker is someone driven by resentment and spite. He has a sort of biting sarcasm. His sense of humor is full of bile. He's closely associated with the fool in Proverbs, in wisdom literature, right? So the fool is a scoffer. The fool is a scorner, a mocker. And the fool
someone who's saturated in evil.
Yeah, and the fool hates wisdom.
Right.
The fool hates wisdom. Scoffers hate wisdom. Mockers hate wisdom. But it's I think that we think of scoffing and mocking kind of with a kind of laughter. It's sort of like dismissive of wisdom. That's stupid. That's so lame. That's so boomer. That's so, whatever. It's like, like you dismiss it by mocking it. But there's a kind of deep-seated hatred of wisdom.
Right.
It hates wisdom, and so it hates God's word. It hates God's ways, and it ultimately hates, in Proverbs, it says, all who hate wisdom love death.
That's right.
They ultimately love death. They're the scornful rage against the way God made the world. And since they refuse God's blessing on his terms, they won't humble themselves. They won't receive it they hate everything that reminds them of that blessing. But as opposed to that envious scorn, the righteous man delights. I think this is the contrasting verbs. There's fools who scorn, there's the ungodly who scorn, and there's the righteous who delight in the law of God.
That's right.
The word there is Torah. They delight in the Torah of the Lord. Yep. And he so delights in it that he meditates on it day and night.
That's right.
You know what you meditate on is what you delight in.
Something that you're obsessed with.
Yeah. Now, people, like people who love sports, love their team, love
they can't
the stats.
Stop thinking about it,
they
talking
can't
about
stop meditating on it day and night. The word for meditate actually here literally means to mutter or murmur. It can actually, it's
thinking out loud.
Yeah,
that's what makes me think of.
But it's like, but it also sometimes in some places means to mourn. So it's like almost like a groaning. And in a few places, it even refers to animal noises. So lions growl, and it's the same word. Yeah. They meditate. They roar. Or in the dictionary I was looking at, says it can even refer to like a bird cooing. So it's like it's like a very deep, visceral, physical,
kind of emotional,
murmuring, meditating. Yeah. That's why they translate it meditate, because like it's sort of like you're like muttering. It's like under your breath. It's in your head, but it's coming out. You're kind of talking to yourself about it a little bit, like all of that. If the ungodly are full of complaints and bitterness, and that's what they're murmuring about, the righteous are constantly grappling with Scripture. They're constantly turning the word over and over in their hearts and their minds. They're muttering about it. They're talking to themselves and everyone around them about the law of God. And this is day and night. Day and night, which reminds us of the sacrifices of Israel, morning and evening, a continual sacrifice. When you read in the morning, you read the word in the morning, you meditate on that word should be smoldering on the altar of your heart all day long, growling in your heart, murmuring in your heart. And just when it's beginning to fade, you read the word again in the evening, and that rekindles the flame for the night. Right. That's the idea of a continual sacrifice, morning and evening sacrifice. And the blessed man meditates morning. And that's why traditionally, that's what Christians, we're in the word, morning and evening. Yeah. Morning and evening, just like the morning and evening sacrifice, a continual sacrifice of praise, continually meditating, murmuring on the word.
Glorious.
And Too bad that's Old Testament.
What's that?
Too bad that's Old Testament.
Hey, I'm just about to get there. And notice that to sing the Psalms and rejoice in the Psalms, there's no bifurcation between the law and the rest of Scripture.
Preach.
Okay? So the New Testament says you have to sing the Psalms.
Yeah.
Right? This is what Paul says in Ephesians and in Colossians. Let the word of Christ, dwell in you richly, singing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. Yeah. How is Christ dwelling in you? Through the Psalter. Right? And so if you're singing the Psalter, then you're singing Psalm 1. And Psalm 1 says that I delight in the law of God day and night. Right? I delight in the law of God day and night. And so there's no bifurcation between the law and the rest of Scripture. And this is not because sinners are not condemned by the law. No, they are. Sinners are condemned by the law. But because the righteous are righteous by faith alone, justified by God's grace alone, having been saved, the law of God is now their delight. The law condemns sinners outside of God's grace, but the law is a blessing. It's a blessing to those clothed in the righteousness of Christ. When God saved Israel and brought them to Mount Sinai, he did not give them the 10 Commandments in order to bring them back into slavery. Never forget the preface to the 10 Commandments. The preface to the 10 Commandments is, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. The 10 Commandments are the ways of the godly, the wisdom of free men. The 10 Commandments is the wisdom of those who would live free. And so they are the delight of the righteous. The law of God makes ransomed sinners happy. Right. And that's what the word blessed means, by the way. The first word in the Psalter is happy, blessed. The righteous and the ungodly are like trees, this psalm says. The righteous man is like a fruitful tree. The ungodly man is like a rotting tree, disintegrating in the wind. The blessed or happy man is like a tree that continually produces fruit and his leaf does not wither. He is a tree of life. He drinks deeply from the streams of God's word, morning and evening, growing in his wisdom, so he has life and wisdom to give his family, his friends, his community. People who are stressed and running on fumes are not walking in the light. Walking in the light of God means walking in the joy and the peace of God. This isn't because nothing bad ever happens. This isn't because they are never tired. Rather, it is simply the Holy Spirit inside of them, comforting them, encouraging them, and reminding them continually of the promises of God. They're like fruitful trees because Christ and his word is their supreme delight. Morning, evening, morning, evening. Frequently, anxiety and fear and stress and angst are related to meditating on what is wrong, what you don't have, what you have lost, what others have, what you don't have. Right. But the happy man, the blessed man, meditates on the law of God and delights on it day and night. Our first instinct as Christians when things are bumpy or rough should be to read more Bible. If you can manage the time to scroll on social media or watch shows or listen to podcasts, you have 15 more minutes. You have 30 more minutes a day for Bible. And don't just do it. Delight in it. Meditate on it. Write down key phrases, verses, circle, write, highlight. Remember the themes, ask questions, seek answers. When Jesus came teaching in parables, it was the disciples who followed him afterwards who got the explanations. So seek after Christ with all your heart and you will find him and in him life and wisdom and blessing. The Psalm 92 says, the righteous shall flourish like a palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. Those that be planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God. They shall still bring forth fruit in old age. They shall be fat and flourishing.
Cheers to the king.
Cheers.
Cheers to the king. All right. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is CrossPolitic.
As a publisher of classical curriculum, I would like to apologize for the great books. For the many authors among the Greeks, the Romans, and Christendom, they are an incredible heritage worth preserving, and here is my apology.
What?
Perhaps I should define my terms. Apology, something said or written in defense or justification of what appears to others to be wrong, such as Tertullian's Apology for Christianity. Perhaps now more than ever, the great books and our cultural inheritance of Western civilization is in need of this kind of apology. We want to make the case that an essential part of a robust Christian education is being equipped to make an apology or a defense not only of your faith, but also of the cultural soil in which Christianity grew, the authors, books, works, and history found in the great books. A defense of a Christian inheritance of the great books. And we'll do that by introducing you to some of these authors through our emails, where you will be able to receive a small taste of such an education. Old Western culture isn't the only curriculum to study the great books. There are many good ways to do it, but it is very unique in its narrative, story-like approach that is accessible and loved by teens, usable alone or in groups or family settings, yet engages with the ideas and texts to a degree that educators have told us it is their favorite tool for conveying a love of learning and the great books to students of any age. I want to share a short letter with you from one of the American founding fathers, John Adams, to his then 17-year-old son, John Quincy, who would later become the 6th President of the United States. My dear son, as the war in which your country is engaged will probably hereafter attract your attention more than it does at this time, and as the future circumstances of your country may require other wars, as well as councils and negotiations similar to those which are now in agitation, I wish to turn your thoughts early to such studies as will afford you the most solid instruction and improvement for the part which may be allotted you to act on the stage of life. There is no history perhaps better adapted to this useful purpose than that of Thucydides, an author of whom I hope you will make yourself perfect master in original language, which is Greek, the most perfect of all human languages. You may be relieved to know that students are not required to read Thucydides in the original Greek in Old Western culture. They can read it in English, but it is one of the many works they will read and understand, joining generations of men and women prepared for the stage of life through these works. The classical education of the American Founding Fathers and of the Reformers and medievals before them, as well as the early Church Fathers, was not a coincidence. It was a tool they used to prepare themselves and their children for effective lives well lived. At Roman Roads Press, we are not canceling the classics. On the contrary, our mission and our motto is to equip families to inherit the humanities.